from George Washington to Donald Trump and everyone else in between. And also, in the future, I'm going to teach you how to memorize the US presidents in order in a very fun and creative manner. Memory Master Champion Lewis Angel right here with AE Mind. I'm going to be teaching you how to memorize the presidents in order from 1 through 45. And for this episode, we're going to be focusing on the first 10 presidents. Remember that you can get the free Better Memory Now guide at aemind.com. Also like, comment, and share this. So in order to memorize the presidents in the correct order, we have to tap into our creative mind. We have to become creative storytellers. And the way that this works is that we have to create images and stories and place them along a route in our mind called a memory palace. And I'm going to teach you how to create one of those and how to use that not only for this information, but for anything else you want to memorize in a sequential order. Just like how I talk about in my Better Memory Now book, there are 3 steps to being able to memorize information very quickly. The first step is that you need a location. You need to have a place in your mind or a memory palace in order to store the information in a sequential order. And we're going to do this with our house locations. I'm going to show you how to create that in a moment, but just start thinking about putting yourself right there in the front door of your home and then opening up the door and then seeing that first room that you walk into. Take a note of that. We're going to use that in a moment. Step 2 is to visualize. This means that we're going to take the information we want to memorize and turn it into an image to store it along that sequential route. And then step 3, for long-term memory retention, we need to review that information. Once again, the first step is we need locations. If you've already created your own memory palaces and your own locations, feel free to skip ahead to the actual memorization portion. But if you have no idea what I'm talking about when I talk about creating a memory palace, then this portion is for you. What I want you to do is get a sheet of paper and draw 4 equal squares. This is going to represent 4 rooms in your home. Actually, I would also recommend to draw 1 extra square off to the side. So you're going to have 5 in total. And once you label each one of these, let's say the first one is your living room, second one is the bathroom, third is a bedroom, so on and so forth, kitchen, backyard maybe, whatever it is that you chose, label that on there. And then in each one of these rooms, I want you to label 5 different spots, 5 pieces of furniture, 5 items that really stand out to you. I'll give an example. When I walk into my mom's home, that's always been my first memory palace. So when I walk into my mom's home, that first room is the living room. So I see a window for the first location, table for the second one. The third one is a sofa. The fourth location is a mirror. And the fifth one is a TV. Now what I want you to do is repeat this process for each one of the rooms. If the next room is a bathroom, maybe choose a toilet, a sink, a shower, a towel rack, a door, whatever it is. Those are actually my 5. And then we are ready to move on to step 2, which is visualize. And this is where the fun begins. This is where we're going to be able to memorize the first 10 presidents and also all the other ones in a sequential order. Now, to take your learning experience to the next level, I've partnered up with the Great Courses Plus to give you a 2-week free trial. Make sure to go to aemind.com/great, GREAT, to get your 2 free weeks and learn all about U.S. history and so many other subjects. All right, the first president, as we all know, is George Washington. So this one's going to be pretty simple, and it's a great way to actually start practicing this system with. And just so that you know some presidential facts, I'm going to be laying them all down right here for you. George Washington was president from 1789 to 1797, and his VP, vice president, was John Adams, who is also the second president. And I'll show you how to memorize that in a moment. But first, let's focus on George Washington. So what we want to do here is turn his name into an image. We're going to take just the last names and create a story around that. So for Washington, we're going to picture a washing machine for Washington. You have to ask yourself, what does that name remind me of? For me, I picture a washing machine. If you can think of something else when you hear the name Washington, go ahead and picture that and use that for your image association. Maybe you picture a $1 bill, $1 bill for Washington. That's perfect. As long as you remember that that's your association for Washington, you can use that as well. So now what you want to do is go to your first room in your house memory palace. In my case, I'm going to enter the living room and choose that first location. For me, it's a window. Then what you want to do is link that image of washing machine on that first location. So for my example of a washing machine and a window, I wouldn't just place it in front of the window. I wouldn't just put it there in a static manner, meaning nothing's happening. I just see the washing machine and the window. I wouldn't do that. I want to add a lot of action to it. Add all the senses that you possibly can. What do you hear? What do you see? What do you smell? What do you taste? What does it feel like right there in that spot? Add as much action to it. Imagine like you're the director to a huge cinematic motion picture with an unlimited budget and have the most vivid story that you can possibly think of. So maybe like I turn into the Hulk and then I throw the washing machine through the window. It breaks the window, shatters it into pieces, and then a bunch of suds from inside of the washing machine come back and try to like engulf the whole window area and myself as well. The more vivid you make it, and maybe I start eating that all the suds there coming out of the washing machine. I don't know. The more vivid you make it, the more weird, the easier it is for you to remember it later on. So practice this, and it does get easier the more that you do it. It's only challenging in the beginning. So go ahead and see that washing machine on your first location. Because then what's going to happen is you're going to see that location when you're going back and reviewing, and then you're going to see that washing machine. You're going to ask yourself, okay, what was this? What did this stand for? Obviously, in this case, Washington for washing machine. First president is on the first location, George Washington. Can you memorize the first name using this method? Of course you can. Maybe for George, you'll picture Curious George inside of the washing machine. I don't know. Add whatever it is that you want to that first name that is going to help you remember it. You more than likely won't need it for most of these because as soon as you hear the last name, you will more than likely, you've already have heard that first name, like Thomas Jefferson. You pretty much, if you just picture the Jefferson part, which we'll get into in a moment, you'll pretty much know that Thomas comes in front of Jefferson. John Adams. Adams, you just picture Adams. Apple for Adams, you'll know that John comes in front of Adams. So for the most part, you wouldn't need to do that extra work, but if you wanted to, just for practice as well, you can. That's on your own. We're only going to do the last names in this exercise. Now that you have an idea of how this works, we're going to go through these a little bit faster now. So the second president, John Adams. He was president from 1797 through 1801, and his vice president was Thomas Jefferson. For Adams, I picture Adam's apple. So I just picture an apple for that, for Adams. You can also maybe picture like an atom or an atomic bomb for Adams. Whatever you think of for Adams. You might even ask yourself, who does this remind me of? So maybe you have somebody that's named Adam. You can picture that person for Adams. In this case, we're just going to stick to apple because that's what I normally use for Adams. I picture an apple, Adam's apple. Now we go to the second location. For me, it's a table, and I would picture that apple on the table. Again, don't just see it statically sitting there doing nothing. You want to make it very vivid. So maybe see yourself cutting it into tiny little slices on there and just spreading them out through the entire table, and your whole family comes and all they eat, and maybe it's Thanksgiving, all they eat is apple slices for Thanksgiving. So apple on the table, doing something, have a little story created out of these two elements, the apple and the table. In my case, the table is my second location. So whatever your second location is, picture that very vividly on there. And then all you have to do is translate that apple back into the name, which is John Adams for the second president. Now here's a bonus advanced tip. I wouldn't recommend for you to do this if you are not familiar with the memory palace system just yet and you're just getting started. Definitely stick with one image per one location. But if you're pretty familiar with it, I would recommend for you to do this. Link two images on one location. So you would do the washing machine and the apples on one location. So maybe you're stuffing a bunch of apples in the washing machine, making applesauce as you squirt it onto that first location, the window, all over that window. So those two images are going to be linked together, and that's going to just save you. It's going to cut your overall location need in half. But again, if you're not used to this, if this is the first time you're hearing about this, don't do that. Just stick to one image, one location. It's okay to practice also with more of these locations. So it's perfectly fine. You just need to create a few more extra locations. The third president, Thomas Jefferson. He was president from 1801 through 1809. He had two vice presidents. On his first term, he had Aaron Burr as his vice president, and his second one was George Clinton. All right, for Jefferson, I would picture a chef son. So a little baby chef with one of those chef's hats, and he's cooking up or he's baking something. So chef son for Jefferson. Now you want to bring up your third location. For me, it's a sofa. So I would picture the chef's son baking a huge cake on my sofa. So he's baking it and then he starts spreading the frosting all over the sofa and he has everybody come and just grab cake from there. Or he possibly just starts throwing cake on the sofa. He's a little chef's son, a mischievous chef's son. And he starts putting cake all over that sofa and licking it. Again, add as many senses as you can to this. Then we take that image, translate it back into what it represents. In this case, Thomas Jefferson for chef son. Fourth president was James Madison. He was president from 1809 to 1817. You can memorize this using the number system that I've helped you with already. All you have to do, and I won't get into it right here, but just turn these numbers into an image using the major system. So that is possible. We won't get into that just yet. Maybe in the future we will. But for right now, just let's stick with this. James Madison, president from 1809 through 1817. His vice presidents were George Clinton and Elbridge Gerry. What I would have pictured for Madison is medicine. Medicine for Madison. I still remember back in the day, mom used to give us some really nasty medicine that just made you just squirm as soon as it hit your tongue. Oh, it was so nasty. But then there was that grape one too that tasted pretty good. So they tricked us with the grape one first. Like, oh yeah, this medicine's good. And then they slid in that nasty tasting one. Anyway, picture medicine for Madison. And we're going to place that on the fourth location. What is that for you? For me, it's a mirror. So I'm possibly pouring that medicine all over that mirror. And then I'm licking it and it's really disgusting. Because now we know that whenever we see that location and we see the medicine on there, we're going to think of Madison. Medicine, Madison. The fifth president is James Monroe. He was president from 1817 through 1825. And he had one vice president, Daniel Tompkins. For Monroe, I would picture a moon rowing a boat. Moon rowing, Monroe, moon rowing. Now to memorize that, I would bring up my fifth location, which is a TV, and then I would store a moon rowing on the TV. So maybe it's like a TV show that I'm watching and this moon, it's a cartoon. So the moon is rowing a boat and then it crashes through this. And then it pops out of the screen, kind of like a 3D effect. Moon rowing the boat, and I'm looking at it from the left side, from the right side. I finally see the back side of the moon, and it keeps rowing this boat, and it comes around me, and then it pops back into the TV, like virtual reality in a way. So moon rowing, and then maybe it splashes water onto me before it goes back in. I don't know. And more action to it. The more action you make it, the more vivid, the easier it is for you to retrieve it later on. So moon rowing on your fifth location, because we know that the moon rowing represents Monroe for James Monroe as the fifth president. All right, now make sure to do a quick review. What was the first president? George Washington. What about the third? Jump over to your third location. For me, it's the sofa. So I would picture the chef's son putting that cake all over that sofa. Translate that back into the name, which is Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson is the third president. What about the fifth? Moon rowing, Monroe. You got it. Awesome. Now, how are we doing? You need a break? Go ahead and take a break and then come back. But if you're ready to just trek on and go to the next 5 presidents, let's do that right now. Go ahead and jump over to your second room. For me, that's the restroom. So whatever that is for you, jump over to that room. Maybe it's a bedroom. Maybe it's a kitchen. For me, it's the bathroom, restroom. And then see your 5 locations there that we're going to use. So number 6 for me is a toilet, 7 is a sink, 8 is a shower, 9 towel rack, and 10 is a door. John Quincy Adams is the 6th president. He was president from 1825 through 1829. His vice president is John C. Calhoun. And yes, John Quincy Adams is the son of John Adams, the 2nd president. We're still going to use Adam's apple for this. If you wanted to add an extra little anchor to help you remember that John Quincy Adams was the 6th president, you might picture yourself possibly like barbecuing the apple on that 6th location to give you the trigger of the Q, barbecue for Quincy. But I really don't think that's needed. You'll just have a mental note in your mind that the 6th president is John Quincy Adams instead of just John Adams. So then you bring up your sixth location. For me, it's a toilet, and I see myself stuffing those apples down that toilet and clogging up the toilet. My mom's not gonna be happy about that I just did that, but I'm just shoving apples down the toilet, clogging up that toilet. It's probably not a good idea. Now we know that whenever we see the toilet being clogged with those apples, we think of John Quincy Adams. The seventh president is Andrew Jackson. He was president from 1829 through 1837. His vice presidents were, for the first term, John C. Calhoun. For the second term, Martin Van Buren, who was also the eighth president, but we'll get to that in a moment. For Jackson, I picture a jack, like a car jack that you lift a car up to change the tire. I picture a jack for Jackson. Then I'll place that on my seventh location. So I'll see the jack on the sink in my bathroom. So I'm lifting up the sink faucet with the jack. I'm lifting it up higher and higher and higher, and maybe it hits the roof and it breaks through the roof, and then water just starts draining all the way down from the top of where I lifted that faucet from on that jack. So the jack on the seventh location doing something. Maybe make sure that jack is doing something very vivid on your seventh location. Because now we know that whenever we see the jack on that location, that's going to represent Jackson for seventh president being Andrew Jackson. We have a few more here for the eighth president. We know that that's Martin Van Buren. He was president from 1837 through 1841. And his vice president was Richard Mentor Johnson. For Van Buren, I would picture a van burning. And I would see that on my eighth location. So for me, it's a shower. So what is that eighth location for you? Now, it's pretty convenient for me to see a van burning on my eighth location because that's the shower. So I would see myself pretty easily putting out that fire of the van burning inside of my shower. Now, whatever it is for you, link that van burning on your eighth location. Now we know, because again, van burning represents Van Buren, which is the eighth president. Martin Van Buren. The ninth president is William Henry Harrison, and unfortunately, he did pass away from typhoid and pneumonia just 31 days into his presidency. So he served from 1841 through 1841, so the same year, and his vice president was John Tyler, who ended up succeeding him as the next president. So for William Henry Harrison, we would take Harrison and turn that into an image or an association. I picture a hairy son. So little boy that's very hairy. My ninth location is a towel rack. So I would see the little hairy son, the little hairy boy, maybe trying to dry his hair on the towels on the towel rack, and then his hair gets tangled up and he starts screaming and yelling for his mommy. So little hairy boy, hairy son, gets his hair tangled up on that location. Whatever that location is for you, for me, it's a towel rack. Because we know that whenever we see the hairy son, that represents Harrison for William Henry Harrison as the ninth president. The 10th president was John Tyler. He was the first VP to get elevated to the level of president after William Henry Harrison passed away, unfortunately, from pneumonia. And so John Tyler served from 1841 through 1845, and he did not have a VP of his own. For Tyler, I would picture a tie, like a dress tie or a bow tie for Tyler. And I would see that on my 10th location. Now, on the 10th location, for me, it's a door. What is that 10th location for you? Whatever that is, make sure to picture a tie doing something on that location. Maybe you're decorating that location with a bunch of ties everywhere. For me, I would like squeeze the door. That's my 10th location. I would squeeze the door with the tie, and maybe I secure it and I lock it down with several more ties, and I just keep squeezing the door with ties everywhere, up and down the door. Because now I know whenever I see the ties on that door, I would think of Tyler for John Tyler. All right, now a quick review brought to you by aemind.com. Let's go right into this. On the first location in your first room, we would see a washing machine. For me, I saw that on my window, and then we would translate that back into the name of the president, in this case, George Washington. The second location featured an apple for John Adams, Adams apple. The third location was Chef's son on that third location. For me, it was a sofa. So the chef's son was baking a cake on the sofa, third location. And we would translate that back into the name, which is Thomas Jefferson. The fourth location has Madison. And for Madison, we think of James Madison. James Madison is our fourth president. What was our fifth president? Think of the fifth location. We saw moon rowing on the fifth location. That's right. The fifth president is James Monroe Moon Rowing. Now we jump over to the second room, or if you were a little bit more advanced here and you link two images on one location, you're still in that first room. But for those of us that want to just really practice this and hone our skills, let's jump over to the second room. First location there is a toilet. For me, it's a toilet. What is that first location in that room, or sixth overall location? Remember that we picture Apple on that location for John Quincy Adams as the sixth president. If you wanted to link a barbecue to that to help you remember Quincy, you can do that as well. The seventh location features a carjack for Andrew Jackson. The eighth location, for me, it's a shower. That was pretty easy to link a van burning on the shower. So I picture Martin Van Buren as the eighth president on my eighth location. On the ninth location, a towel rack for me. What is it for you? I would picture a hairy son on that location, a hairy little boy on that location, and I would translate that back into the name of William Henry Harrison for the ninth president, which unfortunately passed away just 31 days into his presidency. And he was succeeded by his VP, who in our 10th location, we picture a tie, which represents John Tyler as the 10th president. Great job. You now know the 10 presidents in the correct order and by number. I bet you can't do that if you memorize a little jingle or a song, because then you would have to repeat that whole song in order to get to the 9th president or the 10th president. In this case, the power of this method is if you review, you will be able to say whichever president you want in any order that you want. You would be able to jump right to, say, the 5th location and see exactly what was happening on there. So for me, my 5th location is a TV, and I see moon rowing coming out of that TV. So the president for that is what? That's right, Monroe, James Monroe. So you know exactly how to do that. You cannot do that with the jingle or a song. You can do this with the Memory Palace method, taught by your memory coach, Louis Angel. All right, make sure to get the free Better Memory Now guide at aemind.com. Subscribe, leave me a comment or a review. Let me know what you think about this, and I'll see you on the next one. Make sure to keep learning, keep growing, and have an accelerated and empowered mind. Peace out. I'm out.